We are live. So, one, I want to welcome everybody to Let's Have the Conversation. Today we are with Marika and Shamika. Both are they, them pronouns. Let's use them. And they are going to be discussing the gender of what the spirituality of gender, right? Pretty much. I'm not going to be really a part of this conversation. I am going to just host, maybe jump in after a couple of questions, but I, like you, I'm really just trying to sit inside of it because it's just not my space. And like you could learn to sit down and shut the fuck up, just not take up space in certain spaces. I'm going to sit down, shut the fuck up, not take any space. Micah, Jamaica, take it away.
Thank you.
Hey.
Absolutely.
So I haven't asked. I was going to ask in the few minutes of me trying to get my life together, but I wanted to ask, how are you doing on live? And it can be genuine, because I don't do fake very well. So if I would have asked, it would have been weird. So how are you as a human right
I'm good. Very busy. My life is very full. I'm full-time in a business degree program at the local community college and full-time studying humanities and depth psychology for grad school. So yes, and single parenting and living, all that good stuff.
So I want to go back to school. And I've kind of been like trying to just navigating a lot of things. The way you've gone back to school has been really exciting for me because um you know how like when someone does something in a way that you're like, I want to do this, but can you do that? Like you need that internal permission slip. And
Mhm.
like I was like, I'm talking to my partner and I'm like, I'm totally doing nothing in the traditional sense with any advanced degree. I just want you to know that. Like, we're gonna spend this money, we're gonna do these things, and it's for my enrichment, because that's what education is for me. Okay, it's my enrichment. It will help me live my life better, but like don't expect me to go quote unquote use this for a job. And like I don't know, I guess I've been kind of holding myself back. But watching you do that, like these are important things for you and they're very interesting. But I think I've also watched you go on this personal journey, like this human growth journey as you've been going through. And I was like, that's exactly, I have these philosophies about school. And I was like, that's what it's for. That part. So
Yeah,
exciting for you.
thank you.
Um, I am a distracted, anxious hot mess because I have some big personal things going on. Um, and I go to court in a week, which is like the sort of the pinnacle of all of these things, exactly a week from today. And so if I am a distracted, hot, anxious mess, it's partially because of that. And then it's partially because that's who I am. So
Yeah.
we're clear on that. All right. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop. So I stopped myself because I was trying to find the thing from Dez's page to share it, and I was like, that's not important. This conversation's important. People sharing it. Oh, thank you. See, remember when I was think that's the thing. Okay. Um. So yeah. This conversation, I have these like 30-year conversations in my head where I'm trying to figure something out, but I don't know the words to use to other humans to
Yeah.
say the thing that I figured out once I spend my entire existence trying to figure it out. So, no!
Oh no, what happened?
Oh no. I'm going to pull them out of there. And
Yeah.
when they we could do it because that was like terrible. Oh,
Oh no. Yeah, that was
oh.
that was quite the screen grab.
I'm gonna.
I'm gonna while Shamika's figuring that out, I kind of think I know where they were going a little bit because there's a conversation that's been happening, especially in the non-binary community and the trans community in general, about these ideas of masculine and feminine and divine masculine and feminine.
Big time. And not only, and not to overtalk you, but like
No,
I
go for it.
want if you could bring it in like the spiritual community, right? Like I see all these
Yeah.
the future female, divine feminine rising, all of that conversation too. And I'm like, this is teeter-tottering on some major dismissive feelings for me, right? And for the record, like I'm cisgendered and heterosexual. I have no dog in the fight of being queer or anything, or like I conform to most of the normative terminology. So I definitely can see where this is becoming problematic. Absolutely, turning it back to you.
Thank you. No, and I appreciate that, because these energies, like especially in the spiritual world, kind of what I see happening is that people are, especially in the West, are in Western ideology. Hey, Shamika, you're back. Are you on your computer now?
I am.
We just wound up figuring out what you may have been saying, and Marika started speaking about like the conversation within the non-binary community in regard to like spirituality, divine masculine and feminine, and I just kind of put into play that yes, it's big in the spirituality world as well, right? Like divine feminine rising, et cetera, et cetera. So that's pretty much where we're at, and I'm gonna sit back out whilst I share and tag you guys. Carry on.
So I was guessing that that's where you were going, or that we were moving into that a little bit, but I want to hear what
absolutely.
you had to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that most people in the spiritual communities have this sense that there is something that people call divine feminine and divine masculine, but actually identifying what that energy is without associating it with gender is where I feel like things get stuck. Like people don't know how to really define what it means to be feminine, what it means to be masculine, because there's so much overlap. Like when you look at indigenous and earth-based spiritual practices, like for instance, Hinduism, they have the Shakti and Shiva energies, and they are associated with feminine and masculine to a degree, but within that culture, what that means is something very different. It's accessible to everyone. It's not as closely tied to gender the way that we in the West think of divine masculine, divine feminine. But because it's kind of borrowed from that and then like put into the gender constructs, then it all gets kind of convoluted. And because those energies are represented by goddesses, gods, that like there's a lot of conflation, I feel like, that happens in the spiritual community between these energies. Whereas like a Hindu friend and mentor of mine, Satwinder Isser, she described those energies not so much as masculine and feminine, but as dynamic and static. And that, that and I've also heard people, use terms like push and pull energy and things like that. But it's still, that always still felt like it was missing something underlying that. Like, is that kind of what your experience has been, Shamika?
So, okay, the part I was going to say, and this gets to that, was every time someone says, because I get this a lot, hey, I want you to come on and I want you to talk about gender, because now I identify as genderless. Thank God. I found that language, and it's even better than agender for me because it takes me out of that conversation. Praise it be. Okay. And so what I always want to say is we're not gonna, I can't show up and have the conversation you think we're gonna have. Like, you think that I'm gonna come and explain my existence to you, when the truth is that I went through a spiritual transformation to come to this conclusion. So actually, if I did this, what I would be doing was explaining my spiritual journey to you and then inviting you to go on your own. And that's not really the conversation you invited me to have, right? So when you put it in the terms of spirituality, I was like, yes, yes, because I also have a mentor, spiritual mentor, who she comes from a different generation. Like, she's like Dez's generation, because like they're like right a half step above us, right? Like, what I'm saying is we're all friends, but we definitely grew up. We're like the they them, and y'all. There's not a lot of people who like are in their 40 plus who are they them. Like, y'all are still close enough to our friends, but we are there's a distance, because we were kind of coming to self-awareness that was the language was available and was being used, right? And
Lagging.
so that's relevant, because this friend would most like identify as they them.
Okay. Shamika needs to work that. I understand, like, bro, I'm gonna take it over from that point as far as this generation, right? Like, I laugh sometimes, right? Because we are like that in between generation, right? Like, I remember the internet. I'm like, that feels like it's so old, right? But I was like 20 when it became something that was like, ooh, like when it became anything, like when it was alive, when it became something. So, and I remember like 8 tracks and cassettes, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember when if you were bisexual, you were confused. Like, you could only be one or the other, right? Like, that is a huge part of, like, we are so much closer to being boomers than we would really, some of us would like to admit, right? Like, I have to actively work against my bootstrap mentality. I'm like, bootstrapper. Like, shame on me. So I totally get that. And like, but yet we're not that far apart, right? My sister's only 11 years younger than me, but it feels like an entire generation. And in like literally that gap sometimes can feel like, right, like Jordan said, I remember black and white TV. Like, 3 channels, you know what I'm saying? And like, my kids look at me, and if I even said that, like, they passed a payphone in the street and was like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, the only way we knew how to call somebody. So I think that there is a huge, I don't want to say generation gap, because there's not, right? Like, it's not a generation gap, but there is a huge relational gap, right? Like, this can all seem so new. Like, what is they them? What is, what are these new, where do these new people come from? Like, it's just crazy. And it's like, they probably have always been here. Like, I had to personally wake up to that. Yeah, like, no, you know what? We probably never should have been saying those things. They always existed. We just didn't have this level of connection. Right?
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that has made the biggest difference in following generations, because I'm an elder millennial, so I was right on the cusp. I was right on the cusp, and so most of my childhood I did not have the internet, and in high school, like late high school, was when my family finally got a computer, and yeah, because I wrote some papers on a typewriter earlier on, but my dad was also kind of a Luddite. So we were a little later than other kids my age to get technology. But You know, like, so I experienced both sides, and I think now there is definitely there's so much more connectivity that we have to be able to look up and discover the different ways that people experience their existence. And so because of that communication, we're able to find words for where we fit in, or find people that feel similarly, or just see the wide range of experiences that are out there and realize, like, oh, like I don't have to fit into this small box of what's considered normal. I can, I can experience something different because there's such a huge spectrum of experience.
Right.
Like,
There's a full depth of humanity that I think this connection, with the internet, with social media, with all of this, is a lot of things people really just don't know. Like, my big thing is people don't know what they don't know.
exactly.
Right? If you're
Yeah.
not exposed to it, like if you have one, gay person in your town and they seem kind of like the gays are good, it's like, I've never met they them. That's not a real thing, and so I'm loving this connectivity. And Shamika seems settled now, so I'm going to take the back seat and bring them forward again because I want to learn too. So carry on.
Is it
Shamika,
working, Shamika?
are you working now? Goodness. Trying to get comfort.
It's the trickster. It's the trickster energy.
Man, it's big time going on. This is like literally the other day I was building out my website and it was working on my phone. I texted to my friend it was working for them, but then I see you, Shamika, but then it was not working on my computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
I heard them say okay.
Yeah, you're still lagging a little bit, but I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, like this is my life is such an exercise of surrender right now. I'm so glad I started this off for anybody.
Oh my goodness. Maybe it's
Also,
trying to have a picture. Maybe if you turned off your picture screen and I could put up, like, you keep lagging.
I know. I'm like, no.
And they have such important things to say. I love
I know.
people on it all. My phone voicemail literally said, hang up and text me. Trying to move and see if my Wi-Fi could be better. But that would affect theirs, right?
I don't think so. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Oh, they're gone again.
Oh no.
And we're back again.
Yeah.
Hey, how is this?
Hey. Oh, that's yay. You're
Oh,
with us.
hell!
No lag. Oh, wait. Oh no.
Oh my God. I'm so over it. Why do the entities not want them to speak?
So I feel like this is actually this is a segue into something that I've worked on. So in my last quarter of one of the classes was about the expressive power of archetypes. And this relates to spirituality because a lot of people in the spiritual community rely on archetypes. They talk about like the archetype of the ruler, the divine child, all of these different things. And oftentimes there are these representations of gods and goddesses, and again, very gendered. There are not very many common representations of gods and goddesses or deities that aren't highly gendered in some way, because a lot of what has been written down uh, about different pantheons, especially from the West, like the Greek and Roman pantheons, Celtic pantheons, Norse pantheons, there's a lot. They're highly gendered because they're representing, they're representations, so they're kind of a little more stereotyped, if you will.
Yeah,
but I
they're
wanted
highly
to get
because it's absolutely part and parcel of colonization, and
right.
colonization required patriarchy, and for men to be in control in order to control the situation. So like
Exactly.
it's told by those who are writing it, that does not necessarily make it true, right? Like
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, I had forgotten part of what my point was, but yes, that part. And the fact that, you know, patriarchy had already gotten its roots. Hi. Patriarchy had already gotten its roots into the cultures all of these when all of these mythologies were recorded in a way that we see today. So there may be previous iterations of all of these deities that were not so strongly gendered. What I was getting to was Mercury and Hermes and the trickster and how that relates to binary, but I can get to that a little bit later since Shamika's with us.
Yeah, and
it
looks like I'm in real time, and we're gonna just ride this out as long as the universe allows.
Yeah.
As you can see, I'm really frustrated, but I'm being calm, right? Like this is my spiritual frustration. Okay.
Like you some Palo Santo and send it your way.
No, it's just a lesson in like you're not in control, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be, and it's gonna be good, and like trust that, and like that's the season of life I'm in. And I hate that. So I'm aware, I receive it, and I'm like, nah. Okay. So crap.
Listen, honey.
It went.
Take that phone outside somewhere in the air because I kicked off again.
Oh no.
I'm gonna leave them on the screen though, just so like we don't have to keep. But I did want to say is that also I think that historically, like speaking, like you said, how the patriarchy was already created. We have to remember when we're talking about spirituality, most was passed down by word. Like it was word of mouth. No one was writing this. Right? Like we tend to put, tying together generations and relationally separated. We tend to put like the world, like we are of our generation, right? Like we tend to just imagine the world like it's always been this way, right? Like obviously we understand, like, well, the internet is different, but it's really hard unless you're really sitting down and having those spiritual connections to be like, I'm like, half the world didn't read. Even in the most monotheistic, right? They had like one person in the town, the Shire, like that actually read out the mail. Like this, this is not a bunch of literate people. Like reading was not a thing. Like for most of human existence, reading is new. It's not even like that natural, right? Like I'm an unschooler. It's not like my kids won't actually just wake up and know how to read. Like they need actual teaching in that, right? Like they may know how to do a lot of things naturally, but reading actually needs some level of structure. And so when that came about, they were able to write anything, say anything. And so many had already been conquered and colonized that they were like ready for it, right? Like if you're a starving person and you get fed something or that, you're like, oh my God, this is delicious. And it's like, actually it tastes like shit, but I'm hungry. So I'm gonna eat it, right? Like it's a old, you could tell my age, like Eddie Murphy has like, God damn, this stuff is good. This will be rich. it's just a fucking saltine that you're starving. And so, when the whole system is set up on colonization, on patriarchy, and that kind of stuff, so many people get erased, right? Like we said, like the
Absolutely.
breadth of humanity, that breadth of gender and what it looks like, right? Because even still, to me, like I said, cisgendered person, identify as a cisgendered, in case anybody listening doesn't know, means like I identify with my birth assignment. Like the doctor said, that's a girl. I agree. That's cisgendered, super simple. I realized I'm like, yeah, but like there's still so much nuance in that, right? Like, and
Yeah.
we're still trying to box that, right? Oh, I'm
Exactly.
straight, A flex, hetero flex, like, and it's like we don't even need all of these labels. We could kind of we could kind of just be humans, and like none of that is really necessary. But now I'm going to shut up and listen to you again.
Well, no, I mean, that's such a good point, because in a way, the only reason we need the labels is because we aren't allowed to just be, so it's like the labels are a response, and so because we wouldn't need that language if we could just be whoever we are without all of these constructs about what it means to be a woman, a man, and that you have to, that if if you don't identify with those things in one way or another, that you're transgressing gender. And it's so interesting, because when you look at many indigenous cultures that are still active today, you see the evidence of expanded understandings of gender, like two-spirit,
Right.
and there's many examples that I can't think of off the top of my head, but even just how gender is understood within a culture can be so different than how it's understood now. And part of that is culture, language, the way that language is understood, the way that it functions, that in ways that don't translate to English or to, Western language structures. And so there are so many different things even now, that there are so many different things now. It's like we just get so stuck, and so those labels are only necessary because we don't have this expansive, fluid understanding of what gender and sexuality are. I'm just reading Laura's comment.
I was going to
Tell
ask
us
you,
how to
did you
be.
want
Yeah, how to be based. Yes, yeah. So, how to be based on gender, and a lot of that programming about gender is it's subtle, it's subtle because it's in the way that people treat a person based on how they
Mhm.
present. It's in the types of toys or activities that they allow them to
Amazing.
participate in, the things that they
Yeah.
push them towards. There are so many subtle ways that programming is communicated, even when parents, try to be more progressive. There are a lot of different ways that kids get that messaging about what it means to be a specific gender. And it's something that I constantly see in my daughter and in her friends, like
It
one of
happens
her.
organically almost. It's
Yeah.
honestly wild. I have three younger. I have an adult child, but I have three, 9, 5, and 2.
Mm.
And we have the most egalitarian structure one could ever imagine, right? And we're both stay-at-home parents. So this is like, so it's egalitarian. We have no gender roles in this house.
I
And
love that.
my 5-year-old son will still be like, you can't do that because you're a girl. What the fuck are you watching on YouTube? Like, because that's not even your life. Like, keep in. And so, like, as a parent, as a cisgender parent of what specifically with him is definitely a cisgendered hetero boy, in all the ways he is presenting as such in this moment. Um, I'm like, oh, I have to actively do that, right? Like, I have to actively decolonize his views on what gender looks like damn near daily, right? Like, I watch my language with him. I often say, whenever he gets a partner, right? Because I don't know what his partner will identify as. I don't know if he's going to say a boy. I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. I can't call all of that. So it's like, sometimes I think that, like, things get trendy, right? Like, things get trendy. Like, oh, well, like, yeah, no, I'm going to, like Shamika had mentioned, somebody's like, oh, talk about gender because now I realize I'm genderless. And it's like, is this trendy for you? Or did you have like a real, for lack of better terminology in my own language, it comes to Jesus moment, right? Like, is this a spiritual experience for you? Because when and if it is, like with my idea of progressive parenting, it just has to become a part of your everyday, right? Like, we're not having huge conversations about gender. Like, Shamika educates my kids and they misgender them all the time, right? Like, he's 5. So he's like, she, and I'm like, them. Is there more than one? Nope, just one. Like, okay. Like, and I'm like, okay, like, literally these are questions that the 5-year-old asks. And it doesn't have to be this big. I think sometimes people find things trendy and then they find ways to make more capitalistic ways of doing it, right? I'm going to buy all the books. It's like, don't read anything. Just listen to other people. Shamika seems to snap. I'm going to sit back again and finish this topic. Nick, are you good? Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I am so over this connection. Oh, there you go. Nope.
Almost. Kind of, maybe. Oh, so the trickster, this is what I was going back to, is that, so in my exploration of different archetypes, the show, the Loki TV series on Disney Plus came out around the same time. And for anyone not familiar with the series, Loki, there's like multiple versions of Loki, including a masculine presenting and a feminine presenting, like versions of him from different realities. And so there's this kind of gender bending element to the character in the Marvel universe. But it actually it goes back to the mythology of Loki himself. He's mostly referred to as masculine, but he's a shapeshifter, and so he takes on different shapes. And at one point, he is helping the gods, and he's helping them basically like swindle someone. And he turns into a mare, a female horse, mates with this horse to slow down this project that they're working on so that the guy can't finish in time. And ends up birthing a colt who he then gifts to Odin, and becomes gosh, what's his name? Sleipnir, I think, is, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, it's his special horse. It's an 8-legged horse. And so Loki becomes a mother. Like, Loki, is Shamika back maybe? So there's this gender bending aspect to Loki. this sense that he never really fits in, that he's always disrupting the status quo. And I realized that the archetype of a shapeshifter, and especially a trickster shapeshifter, can really be an archetype that I feel represents a lot of the non-binary experience, or even the trans experience overall. That there's this sense of transgression because we exist outside of these structures. You know, trickster gods and goddesses, they often have this way of navigating between worlds. And that brings me to Mercury, who is, acting up at the moment. And that Mercury and his parallel Hermes, they were able to travel between worlds. They traveled between the gods and humanity, between humanity and the underworld. Like they were messengers, so they had this way of moving through worlds, communicating with different types of people in ways that others could not. The various gods and goddesses had to kind of be in their territory, be in their place. The gods of the underworld, you couldn't really travel easily up to the world of the humans, or the world of the sky deities, for lack of a better way to put it. And so they had this fluidity to them, and this and with the shapeshifter in particular, this sense of being other, being something that is uniquely them, and multifaceted. There's this sense of being,
like it's almost neutral energy. Like that's what's coming for me, right? Like one of the things about our world, human world, and the underworld, if they can go through all of it fluid, it's because they're neutral, right? Because usually when these certain worlds can't collide, right, it's because those worlds have issues with each other, right? And it's based on constructs. Like I'm trying to make it make sense, right? Like a lot of the work that I do is like with decolonization, and I speak with white people and Black people. But I feel like, right, I keep my kyanite crystal that I got from Laura at Seed to Star, and that's like that bridge energy, right? Because that's what I feel like. Like I'm neutral. I fully identify as both of these people, and I understand that race is a construct. So I understand that looking at me, you're going to see a Black woman, whether it's racially ambiguous or not, whatever. You see a woman of color, right? But I understand like the duality of gender because I fully embody both of these identities with no qualms. Like I literally could I could say I'm white and Black or at the same, I'm mixed, or I'm like, yeah, man, my white ass is tired, and not feel you might feel uncomfortable, like that Black chick just said her white ass is tired. But I fully embody both of those identities. Would you say that is similar to that? Like, because it's neutral for me, right? Like a neutrality in it. I'm not charged by either one, right? Like I find myself at home in both places. So like that's the energy that I was thinking of when you said that, right? Like able to go in and out of these worlds, even when you look a certain kind of way, no matter how anybody else is going to receive you, right? You are a woman presenting, right? And I hope that's not offensive or anything.
I mean, I get misgendered all the time because people look at me, they assume that I'm a woman because my body has the curves and the shape of a woman. I mean, like
all of that.
In the paper that I wrote about this shapeshifter trickster energy and how it relates to the non-binary experience, I talked about how like my body is shaped like the divine feminine goddess figures that everyone thinks of, like the Venus of Willendorf and whatnot, like, so there is no mistaking that I was assigned female at birth. Like, I
Right.
can't hide it. I could try wearing a binder, but honestly, I don't think it would do much. Like, I know that people are always going to read me as feminine, even when I like last year. Yes, last year. I'm like 2020, the black hole.
I mean, I assure
But
you, like, definite freaking time loop, man.
yeah.
Definitely.
But I buzzed my hair off, and even still, it's like, yeah, no, it's
Oh yeah,
I
no,
will
I mean,
never
I could
I'll never look
personally,
androgynous.
yeah, I would definitely, yeah, I don't think I could either, right? Like, I have like just even like the facial features, like of what we assume women should look like, right? Like the plump cheeks. Even when I'm thinner, I still have feminine features, right? Like, like I
Yeah.
said, I have the three younger ones. My 9-year-old is androgynous. Like, if she shaved her head off or what have you, like she would definitely look like a really attractive young boy. And then with her hair, she looks like a really gorgeous young lady. My son does not have that, right? Like, if he's gonna have a trans experience in life and wants to like fully transition, like anything gender conforming, it's going to be a road for him, right? Where if Erin needed to, which is the 9-year-old, it would really literally be quite simple. And there is a distinction when you already have that construct in your mind. This is what woman looks like, right? And like that's what I said, like
Right.
for me, this is what black looks like. So when I'm out here, like, I'm Irish, people are like, I'm sorry, come again. I'm like, I'm not about to explain it to you, Google something. I don't know what to tell you. So like, do you think that that's similar? Obviously it's not the same, right? Because then we can get into whole other stuff that I'm just not about to. But do you think that that's similar? And with me asking that question, how do we break down some of these constructs? Like, what does that new world, since we're speaking about spirituality, let's bring
Yeah.
in ascension to it, right? Like, because my goal would be like, one, we need to get rid of race. Like for me, like we need it's becoming more difficult, right? When it never made sense, but it
Yeah.
worked when it was so binary and the world was not connected, right? When they created race, it was binary. There were lines in the sand, very clear. And now, with connection, with experience, with culture, with all of the things, it's like this is this never served us any purpose. But can we now are we powerful enough now that we're connected to really break that down? And like so, I pose the same question to you in regard to gender. Like, what does the new world and ascension look like for you from your spiritual point of view?
Yeah. Well, I think really so I'll explain it kind of this way. In my understanding of my own gender, I think of myself very similarly to Shameka in that I just I would like to get rid of gender altogether. Just get rid
I'd
of
like to
it.
get rid of
I'm
all of these
like,
concepts
I
of
call
wholeness.
myself non-binary because at the moment, but really genderless is more my experience. Like, if someone were to say like, what's your gender? I'm like, I'm Marika. I'm me. That's just it. Like, and I think that's what it comes down to, is that we want to create all of these boxes for people because, and I think what it comes down to is that we understand that there are human experiences that are unique to certain kinds of people. Like, when you've given birth to a child, that is an experience that someone who has not given birth to a child is not going to understand, or someone who can't is not going to understand. But there's so much more nuance. The more you get into that, it's like, well, what if somebody has the parts and it's just, it's a choice that they've made, or there's so many different rabbit holes that you can go down.
Right.
But the truth
This is why
remains that
I want to
when
break it
you
away.
yeah, but the truth remains that there are certain commonalities. There are certain things. And so, but I think what it is that we have to identify what those energies are and allow them to operate in people's lives outside of connection to gender. And that's where we can really get into, I feel, the truth of things, and get away from this like, oh, that's not for me because that's, for boys, or that's for girls, and I can't be that way because that's, I will experience struggle, or I will experience oppression in some way by not fitting into what's expected of me because of the way that I look, or because of the way that, my place in the world, as opposed to, this is the energy that's inherent to who I am, and allowing that to flourish, and allowing us to go on that journey of figuring out where we need to find that balance. And so when it comes to gender, what I've identified is that this is what I've come to recently, and this is still kind of in process. But
I think
essentially,
evolution remains in flux, though, right? Like there's
yeah,
no.
oh, absolutely. It's fluid all the time.
It has to be, right? Like, because if
Yeah.
not, you get caught in it. Like my views now, my core foundational views won't change, right? Like in regards to like, I really think that certain constructs are just not healthy. I don't think any constructs are healthy. I often utilize the line like the prisons we create for others are the ones that we create for ourselves, right? And like to your point of like, I just imagine such a more free world, right?
Yes.
Such a world like where as a world we just fucking exhale, right? Because like, how insane are we boxing people in? Like you can't like that because that's for girls. So like, my son can't like garden. He can't connect with the earth. Like we're from this. We're all a part of this. Like he's not supposed to do that because that's gay or that's feminine. And like, and we continuously, we breathe the masculine toxicity that we can't stand. Like, I fully blame us as humans. I blame us more. I hold mothers accountable more, right? Like, and that's, they don't have to be women, because for much longer than, this recent history, mothers have been the ones at home and they instill social value. So when I, say that, it's not like an attack. I'm not like into like, it's not a misogynistic point of view. It is the fact that we have been for longer, for many reasons, patriarchy, misogyny, like all of those reasons, but we have been the caretakers. We have been the nurturers. We have been the ones that pour into these humans that then grow up and become adults. And like we're dating and marrying, these people that we've created. There's no one to blame, but us. It's like, my son grows up to be a schmuck. It's probably because I raised him to be a schmuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, thank God we're getting away from like, this job only belongs to like this one parent, and we're opening up to different family structures. But that goes right back to my point, is when we start breaking away from these constructs, we stop. We get free. We exhale, right? Because like, no, everybody is breaking out of it. We have multiple family systems. Like I said, my home is egalitarian. We get shit done in our house because we need to get shit done, not because my husband has a penis. Does he cut the grass? He cuts the grass because I don't want to. I wanna. But the other day when I was like ready to make my little thing outside, I grabbed the weed eater. I was like, yanked it, cut the grass. It doesn't make me any less who I am as a person, nor does it make him any less. And I think that there's a problem with value systems that we place, right? Oh, he's less than a man. Your wife was cutting grass. What kind of man are you? he was cooking breakfast. That's the kind of man he was feeding me. Like, you know, like that's an important aspect. And he wasn't trying to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning to cut grass because I have a whim. But it all works and we kind of get more free. So I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Yeah.
that was like where the
No.
energy was like flowing for me. It's like, it's so
Yeah.
exhausting. Like, aren't you fucking tired of not doing things you enjoy?
Yes.
Based
Yes.
on something as stupid as what's like between your legs. Like,
Right. Yes, exactly. And so, and that's where degendering these, you know, because I think when we talk about masculine and feminine, whether it's divine or not, we all have these, we all have a sense of what that means, but actually describing it can be a challenge, especially when you know that femininity can include all kinds of things. There are feminine goddesses who are warriors, badass, like chopping people's heads off, like doing all kinds of stuff. You know, like these things exist in the archetypes that are available to us.
right.
You know, there are uh, female sky deities. There are masculine earth deities. You know, they all are there when you look and when you actually pay attention to what exists out there. But what it really comes down to, I kind of identified, is that what we consider feminine is actually relational, that it's about relationship. Because when we think of feminine, we think nurturing, we think, you know, like motherhood and all of these things, we think emotions. All of those things can be kind of boiled down to relationship, to a collective idea. There's this idea, the hero's journey, that the heroine's journey is actually more about going back to community, where the hero's journey is more about an individual journey. You know, there's always community involved, but like that's kind of more the core of it. Whereas the heroine's journey is about like a return to the motherland, you know, a return in some way to community, and that, so then what we call masculine is actually about the energy of autonomy, independence, that this sense of being individual versus, you know, completely consumed by a community. And so when we take the gender out of those things, we can start to identify, okay, this is a stronger energy in me personally, without having to reject it because it's like, oh, that's, you know, female, or oh, that's male, or whatever. And so this idea of a collective, you know, that there are some non-binary people, including myself to a degree, who there's an actual relationship. There's a mythology that creates relationship with emotions and with aspects of the self. Hey, Shamika. Are you with us? Is it working?
I see them moving. I wonder if I'm going to try to remove myself from the broadcast and maybe that would help them. I
Okay.
don't know if I can't. Okay. I think it will cut off the whole thing.
I wonder if turning off the cameras would help.
Yeah, I'm going to try
Maybe.
that.
Let me see if turning mine off helps too, for that matter.
I'm glad
Shamika.
that y'all did that because how did you figure that out?
Oh, down at the bottom. Down at the bottom, it said there was a little thing that came up that says mute cam or turn off camera.
Oh, okay. Edit audio.
Yours might look different. I'm in full screen mode. I don't know if that matters.
I'm not entirely sure, but I'm gonna put my cute little staying on, and I'm going to turn my screen off.
Shamika. I see that Shamika's mic turned off.
Hey,
Yeah, it won't
oh
let me
yes,
do
I
what
don't
I had to do.
know how long this is gonna last. Yeah, I don't know how long, if it's even still working.
I can hear you.
No, I think it's my computer. Like I'm having just horrible.
Yeah,
Let me
technology is not liking you
turn off
today.
my camera.
Yeah, I have mine off just in case. Are you there?
Okay, does it work better now that my
I think
camera's
so.
off?
I think so. I was hearing you.
Okay, it just says start cam or cam.
Well, your camera's off. I think Desiree might have turned it off already or something. Because yeah. Oh, now it's just me. All right, well, I'll I'll just keep. Oh wait, are you back?
Yeah, me too.
All right.
I'm here.
Can you all hear me though?
Um, Hold on. I just turned off my camera too, just in case that helps. I can hear you a little bit, but you are breaking up. Are you there?
I don't think they are able to keep the connection.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
That is so sad because we have so much to say on this topic.
Oh,
We have
I
okay,
conversations.
know.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No, we cannot now.
Yeah.
Wait, can y'all hear me? I just
Yes.
want to see if there's still a lag.
There's still a little bit of a lag because you're kind of breaking up a little bit. Um, we can. Yeah, I just saw Shamika's message. We can try. I think it might be good to try this another day so that we can really like fully dig into the conversation with Shamika present.
Yeah, I
Okay,
really wanted to hear
that
the conversation
was a
between the
huge
two.
lag between when I said that. But we've been at this for like almost an hour, and and I'm pretty sure y'all have had an amazing conversation. I've been trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, Shamika, we're just gonna head out and we'll definitely try this another time with you when because it's an ongoing conversation, right? It's not
Yeah.
something that we're going to just like that's it, right? Like I love that. That's why like I host Let's Have the Conversation as a blog, podcast, because it is a constant conversation that we need to have about the human experience in its full breadth of humanity. So I'm going to say goodbye and let's do this again. And we can make it like, I'm really like working on series ideas. We could make this a series and make it weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever kind of makes sense, right? Because like I said, it has to be something that's revisited and it
Yeah.
changes and it shifts and it moves.
Yeah.
So
This will be kind of like a teaser.
look at that marketing brain. That I thank you for having that conversation with me and allowing me to take up space. My intent was to not, but then you would have been sitting here not talking.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you hosting.
Absolutely. Let's do this again when Shamika has a better conversation. And in the back end, let's figure out when we're going to do this some more.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Oh,
And,
sure. Thank you.
I sent you a friend request because I'm low-key a stalker.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Bye.
Bye.